Hi, everyone. Dale Pinkert here at TradeGateHub.com. How's everyone doing today? When I talked to you on Monday, I was focused on the ruble, and the ruble had been coming off and then challenging the 78 level, which we broke out of. Pretty important looking breakout. I just want to give you the other side of the coin. And as you could tell at this new high at 81, we are not confirming. It looks like we could be in the development stages of a 3 drive to a top. And with this going on, it means, there's more military action to follow in Ukraine. As long as US dollar ruble is heading up and the ruble is weakening, it implies to me that there's going to be more of a move in the Ukraine by the Russians. And although we're here, kind of an inside day here, if we pulled back a little bit before we got a 3rd drive, that might show for a few days or so the potential of tensions kind of subsiding a bit. Okay, so here, we could end up challenging this 82 level if you go back on the monthly. And I will. I actually know some guys looking for new all-time highs in the ruble, and that was up here. See, this was a nice little 2 drive. So, nothing that negative in the ruble right now, which implies that there's going to be some more incursions, deeper incursions into Ukraine. Maybe US dollar ruble tops and the ruble bottoms on the full-blown invasion of Ukraine and Putin moving into Kiev and taking over the capital. That would be kind of a classic place for the ruble to peak against the dollar peak against the ruble, and the ruble begin to put in a major low and US dollar ruble an important high. When I was with you Monday, I was talking about the potential, and I said, I wasn't going to trade into this type of market until I had some type of feel about what was going on. And then after he declared the independence of the separatist geographic areas in Ukraine, that was it. And we did have a nice little 3 drive to a top. It actually happened overnight when I was sleeping, but I had a nice little rally to sell into. And if you were in our main chat, put out the recommendation at 1906. There was a $16 decline. I got about half out of this. And one way I'm trying to sidestep and not just sit on my hands forever is that I'm trying to take as little overnight risk as possible and book as much as I can, unless I have a tremendous lead. And to me, having a $7-8 lead in gold can, disappear in a headline. So I continue to advocate that partial profits are never more important in a headline, acutely sensitive market, which we have right now. I look at gold here and, I'm starting to think if we don't get a new high, it's very possible we're looking at perhaps some type of head and shoulders formation. We could just put a neckline in here, right here. Call it here, ballpark. So we start taking out this neckline. We're talking about 1870 as being a possibility. So it's I'm looking to recommit in the gold. I don't believe it will make a new high. And also silver has a very interesting formation now. It outperformed gold yesterday, and gold was down and silver kept marching up. And I talked about that this 2450 level really based upon, I believe it's a weekly. So on the daily, we've already cut through the 200-day up here. Let me look at the weekly, and closes over this 2450 level is going to make it look like a breakout. It is going to be a breakout. So on the weekly, if we start clearing this moving average, it's 2454, which happens to be this high before we broke back down under 22. Then you have pretty clear sailing above this level, and we're probably on our way to 30 and then 38. So, you know, some of the best trades are when a market is very close to a breakdown or a failure. And, you know, even if you're long-term bullish, the silver, that, you know, a trade against this major resistance level for a day trade, for a scalp, for maybe a swing trade could work out. If you look at something like the 1 hour chart, you could see that we had two drives here that aren't confirming. And as we head up towards 24.45, I may give this a shot if we're diverging on different time frames. I think the 15-minute. So you can tell here's 1, 2. They're a little bit spaced apart, but considering silver short, although gold has now turned into the weakness, as you can see, the gold silver ratio rolled over at 80, never was able to take it out. So the weakness right now, if XAU is going to continue to head down, and I actually thought we had a shot for taking these highs out, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Your preferred short is in the gold. So you could wait for a breakdown under this 1890 level, or a right shoulder would have symmetry at 1908. So, you know, up here in this range could be a decent shorting opportunity with stops over 1920, because that would change the whole picture. And this is counter trend. So let's get to the currencies now. A little bit of a relief rally in Euro USD that we had yesterday, and there's really no follow through here. And I want you to pay attention to this descending triangle that we have internally here. And I think what I like about it is it actually measures to a monthly trend line that I've been talking about. So here's your triangle right here. So, you know, we could break out. I think it's a decent short. I'm actually shorting cable instead, put out that idea in our main chat. And the reason for that is what happened yesterday in Euro Pound, where the Euro Pound way outperformed, came back down to earth, but we had this huge spike. And it's very possible that, you know, the low that we had all the way back here was not taken out, this spike low. So we could be getting a turn in EG. If that's the case, I don't want to be short. My preferred short is going to be cable. So when I look at the cable here, we weren't able to trade above 650. And yesterday was a pretty weak day, although it fought its way back. And I think there's a shot for us to trade back down in cable. Here's a look on the daily. If we start taking out this 135 level, 35.10, which is achievable, then we could challenge these lows and even head lower. 133, I actually think we'll head to new lows. So the yen also was on the ropes. Everyone knows I've been talking about 117 being viable. Yields are trying to push higher. Perhaps they are going to 210, 217. I've seen some different counts, although mine was, you know, right around 201. I know some people looking for 210, 217, and yields reversed yesterday after this pullback, and this looks like a 1, a 2, a 3. So as this happens, I do believe that the yen has some more upside, and that we're going to get to this wedge line that is now coming in above 117. Looks like about 1740. And you could see the little wedge line it's trying to get through right now. Still trading fairly close to yields. We had a pullback in yields. We had a pullback in the yen. And if we're going to get new highs in yields, I'd expect these highs to give way on US dollar yen. CAD, I'm you know, a little surprised of what's going on. You know, how many times is it going to knock on the door of a potential breakout? I still think you could buy this in here against 2650 and maybe risk 100. To me, it looks like even though we're moving sideways, that there still is a chance for it to break out over 128. Right now it's a stand aside, but I'd be looking for long entries, and we break above 128. We're talking about 131 because this is a 350 pip rally on the flagpole, consolidating here. And this, I'm sure, is shaking out a lot of USD CAD bulls right now. I think I'd need closes back under 640, another 50 lower to change my mind. That was under this low. Not active on that today. My mistake this week was shorting Aussie and not being aware that there was a RBA meeting. They raised rates, and now we're making another trip up towards this channel line. To me, it's I don't want to short the relative strength. I still cannot get bullish Aussie. I still think that we're going to take out these lows, and I'll have to look for, you know, some type of fading action up here and non-confirmation in the RSI, which is, you know, confirming this high up here. So we'll see what happens up here in the 73 level. Still think that the Aussie, even though it had some success and rallied on an increase in rates, you know, the same thing happened with cable before it gave it up. Looking at the Dixie, similar story. Dixie moving sideways, trying to hold. Still my contention, there's another new high coming in the dollar, as long as we hold last week's lows of 95.20. So I've covered the gold and the silver. Silver is almost getting to those levels that I'm looking for, 24.45. Let's see what it looks like on the 4-hour. We're not going to be confirming here, and I'll be looking at this. Gold at this 1902 level is really not performing that well. In fact, I think I'm going to take a shot on the potential right shoulder here in gold and risk $15. So let me just enter it into the trade room. This is even a few dollars lower than when I did it yesterday, but, you know, not wanting to take overnight risk, like I said earlier, I took profits yesterday in gold, so I'll risk some of those profits and sell it here. So gold. So I invite you guys to come into our chat room. Mike posts all kinds of great stock ideas as well, and he's going to be on the air an hour after I get off at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm selling it here at 1902.60. And I'm going to use a, for now, of $14 stop. I'll get to the rest of the markets. Just want to keep our community in the loop with what I'm doing, and you in the loop with what I'm doing. So there it is, and you'll see the chart in main chat right now. Okay, moving down to the S&Ps, what a whippy day yesterday. I still think the S&Ps have problems. I talked about that. I thought that this low that everyone was relieved on, that we had this huge rally, never really believed that this low was going to hold. I'm not sure if this is the right time to take a shot at the short side. I talked about the fact that it could go either way. You know, we could hold here and put in some type of rally. It is a higher low, but you look at NASDAQ, it's still the relative weakness. It did make new lows. So this was a failing rally. Like I said on Monday, that, you know, I'm a seller up here and I'm a buyer down here. I do expect a very good buying opportunity to set up. There's really ultimate bearishness in the stock market's really changed. I still think it could be a bear market, but I think there's going to be some a nice swing trade from if we take out these lows. There could be a little panic and I'd be looking between 41.60 and 41.20. And now I want to move on to the oil market, which gave up quite a bit yesterday. It really hasn't done anything wrong. Maybe with the ruble coming off, I really think that there's confluence down here at 81, where you have an uptrend line meeting a speed line or a breakout line that we had here. It seems like a natural place for crude to pull back to. I know a lot of people would love to buy a $10, $12 break in crude. So that's my view on it. Can we make a new high first? On some platforms, that's what we did yesterday. So that too is still viable. So I prefer in this environment right now to be short gold over short crude, although I'd be looking for something, especially if we got one more new high up here. Want to point out what's happening in the yuan. Chinese currency still really strong. I thought on this third drive, all we had was a little bit of a rally. I don't know what the implications are, but China not under duress, their currency still acting pretty good, and they're probably in auditions to replace the US dollar. So we'll see. I think it's going to be futile, at least for now, and until emerging markets blow up from the dollar being too strong. I want to take you down a little bit further to talk about the rate picture that we have here. There really was no flight to quality still. We had this little bounce in TLT, still no real sign of a significant bottom here in TLT. And just want to show XLF. Okay, so this is something you pay attention to. Say, for example, we get new highs in yields, okay? And we head up towards 210, 217, and the bank shares should like that. And if they don't, they're going to be giving you a market tell that yields might be peaking there and that they could be pretty good shorts. You look at this on a weekly basis, and the banks have held up well because of rising yields. So if we get to a point where yields might peak for a while, this group could be pretty vulnerable. You could see even on the weekly, looks like you have a 1, a 2, and a 3. And look at the RSI reading, 63 at the new high, which was substantially and glaringly below prior peaks on their reading of relative strength. So I know it's been a group that has rewarded people here over the last 6-8 months. I'd be careful with that. You know, now that higher yields is being accepted, it wasn't 8 months ago, and now everyone's jumping on the higher yield bandwagon. So be careful with this. I'm watching this uranium stock, and to me, it still doesn't look quite ready, but this is on my watch list, this uranium stock. And here's the gold stocks, still acting pretty good. GDX back against major resistance at 35, but it has moving average clearance. I just can't chase the shares up here, and I'm going to see how this all shakes out. Should the dollar make a new high and maybe better entries? Talked about that silver shares were underperforming. They're getting a little bit of a pop today, but you know, the gold shares have already taken out peaks from here and silver hasn't yet. So I'm going to be patient, see if we could get one more sell off here in some of the silver shares. I'm going to have David with us tomorrow, and Dave Hunter, who's looking for a market melt up to 6,000 in the S&Ps. And from here, you're talking about 40% move to the upside. And then his big forecast is for a bust after that happens. So a melt up, something parabolic, and then a bust. It's going to be a real good time to talk to David because he was looking for a correction. We've got it. and we'll see what he's thinking there. We're close to his yield targets. He's finally getting cooperation in the metals that were frustrating him like all other precious metal bulls for the last 6-8 months. I look at things like Apple, and looks heavy to me. I still think we're going to 151, and this was the strength of the fangs. It held up the best on the decline, even made a new high, followed by Microsoft, which is $40 off the high, right? 60 off the high. And it's hard to short it down here. I'd look for rallies to short, but Microsoft down sharply from the highs. We'll see what happens. One constructive thing you could say is that the NASDAQ 100 made new lows. Let's see what made new lows with the NASDAQ 100. And Amazon did not. Tesla challenged them. Facebook did, but that's been making new lows every day. Google held. So we could be getting very close to a place where we're going to be getting a good rally. I still want to wait and see where a lot of these stocks that I like. This is a good time to have your shopping list ready. And then should I be right about one more swoosh to the downside in the S&Ps, down under the low where the hedge fund lady was so relieved. I want to see her feeling stressed down here and worried. And that's when I'll be looking to accumulate some shares that I'm monitoring right now. But have your shopping list ready in different sectors. See which held up the best. Stocks not making new lows, while the S&Ps does, is a market tell of relative strength. So you want to pay attention to that as well. Let's just take a look at the Russian stock market, which really got hammered on this invasion news, and we're lower again today. So it's not without costs, this adventurism, expansionism by Putin. Their equity markets are getting slammed. Seems like both the Chinese and the Russians don't care about what happens to their stock market, at least not now. Seems like Americans and Europeans are more concerned about their 401k than dictators of authoritarian type governments are. So they don't care about their people's pensions. They care about their legacy. So Russia looking pretty negative here. I don't know. I couldn't buy it. And see what I want to wrap it up with. So Bitcoin last week, I'll take a little bit of a victory lap, because last week we were here and I said I thought that we'd pull back to the 40. It was here. I thought we'd pull back to 40,000, and it was even deeper than this. And one thing makes me think Bitcoin is going to take out this low right here. You see this RSI reading right here? So after this big decline, Bitcoin showed no divergences at the low. So the low was confirmed by momentum. Okay. Markets rarely bottom when momentum confirms a new low, which is the case for Bitcoin. So what I would expect is this low just to be a low, and we had a nice bounce, $1,000 or so, but it not to hold for the low. Perhaps the next break in Bitcoin under these levels, the RSI will hold above this reading, and that would be more constructive. So that's my look in the markets today, everybody. I hope that we're adding value to what you're trying to accomplish as a trader. I know that my first 40 years in the business wasn't that easy, but really your first 4. The number one rule, you know what you have to learn? How to survive. Don't worry about making money, worry about how you're going to survive. It's a one mistake business. There's only one thing we could control, and that's risk. And if you're not putting in your stops when you're putting in a trade, or know what your targets are when you're right, you shouldn't be clicking your mouse. So I'll see everyone tomorrow for the interview with David Hunter, and we'll cover all the asset classes that he covers, including equities and gold and silver and yields, and we'll see what areas of the market David likes. I look forward to catching up with David and his narrative. So invite you all to join us tomorrow. Bring your questions. I'll have someone monitoring the YouTube page while I'm talking to Dave and shoot me questions. And then I could also see what you're posting in the main chat room, the trading room here at TradeGate Hub. And let me just say one more time, TradeGate Hub is free. And I know there are a lot of services out there that are free, but their service is free so that they could get to know you and upsell you something that isn't free. This is free. It will stay free. And it's an open forum for you to bring your ideas, to ask Mike and me questions, for you to bring ideas to us, for us to be able to discuss what's happening here in cable right now. So it looks like cable's going my way. Yeah, so cable's starting to head down. So we'll see what happens with this, and good hunting the rest of the day, everyone. See you tomorrow for David Hunter. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. And I'll see you tomorrow for our interview with David Hunter. Adios.